Childless, crazy cat ladies and gentlemen, assemble. But before you do, listen to this joker.
Saying is that we're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. And it's just a basic fact. You look at Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children.
It's very Andrea Leadsom of JD Vance, wasn't it? That was him speaking to Fox News. Of course, in 2021, the United States is being run by childless cat ladies. Let's add this into the mix. Back in October 2020, Donald Trump told a rally that Kamala Harris wouldn't be the first female president.
And by the way, Kamala will not be your first female president. She will not be your first female president. It's not the way it's supposed to be. We're not supposed to have a socialist. Look, we're not going to be a socialist nation. We're not going to have a socialist president, especially a female socialist president. We're not going to have it. We're not going to put up with it.
Especially a female socialist president, especially female. And God forbid a female that hasn't pushed a baby out of her rear end. Well, not a rear end, you know what I mean. I mean, come on. These men, these two men in particular, I mean, they may become president and vice president of the United States. Don't panic. Don't panic. It's properly bonkers, isn't it? Just as Andrea Leadsom was properly bonkers when she threw the same silly, stupid, thoughtless, brutal, actually, cruel language in Theresa May's direction in an interview when she was hoping to be leader of the Conservative Party. That quickly put paid to her chances, and so it should have. And these kind of comments should put paid to JD Vance's chances as well. They probably won't. I mean, he's there, isn't he? He's going to be vice president if Trump wins, unless there are more surprises in store. But I'm fascinated by this idea that, I just about understand. I still think it's weird, but I do understand how somebody who has had children might look at somebody who hasn't and say, oh gosh, didn't you have children? Oh, life without children, what's that like? Or can I talk to you about, it's an interesting conversation. It's an interesting conversation because life without children is clearly a different life than if you have the full-on responsibility of children who you love and, want to see through life and develop and all the rest of it. And I'm a very lucky woman because I have so many lovely nieces and nephews who I'm very close to. But I know it's not the same as them being my children. I mean, I love them deeply and I would die for them and I care for them deeply and I want them to do well in life and would do anything for them. But they're not my children. I get that. I call them our kids because they are our kids in our family. But, I get that there's a difference. And I also get that to give birth to a child or to father a child, different experience again, of course, but to give birth to a child and to become that child's mother is an extraordinary experience that I haven't had. I get that I haven't had it. But does it amount to a hill of beans when it comes to whether you're going to be good at your job or not? I mean, it is a life experience that is without doubt a deeply changing life experience. I've got no doubt. I've seen it. I've seen it in people. And there are books written about it. There's a great book, if you haven't read it, I'd recommend it to you, by a woman called Lucy Jones called Matrescence, The Metamorphosis of Pregnancy, Childbirth and Motherhood. She's actually a science and nature author, Lucy Jones. But it's such an interesting book because it looks at the longer term experience of being a mother through quite a scientific lens as well, as much as anything else, as much as the human lens. And, there's no doubt it is a ground shifting experience. Of course it is. Of course it is. But no mother or father lives in that early state forever. They've got to get up and out and doing their job and back into normal life. And it doesn't mean they love their kids less. It just means they're not in that heightened state of new parenthood and exhaustion, no doubt, that you are in at the beginning of your time after having a child. But does any of it change how you can do your job? And this idea that if you don't have children, you have no stake in the future. Of course you have a stake in the future. Because A, you're still alive, so the future includes you. But unless you're, half dead inside, you care about the world. And you care about the people in the world. And you care about the people you love in the world. Your nieces and nephews, the children that they will go on to have, that you'll probably get to know, actually. But it's so... What's the word I'm looking for about JD Vance's comments in particular? I mean, Trump's just an idiot. But JD Vance's comments, it's just thick. It's really thick and leaden and insulting. The idea that if you haven't given birth, you're the oldest one in the book, the crazy cat lady thing. I mean, come on. What I don't know. His wife seemed fairly sensible when she gave a speech at the convention, didn't she? I mean, it was very sort of, motherhood and apple pie and my amazing husband and all that, which you'd expect in those settings. But seems to be her own woman. She, doesn't support the same politics as him. She's not from the same religious background as him. There's clearly no evidence that he thinks she should be. So he's clearly able to have what looks like an equal relationship with a woman, but only if she has his children. Any other woman he meets who hasn't given birth is a source of great discomfort to him. Or maybe they're afraid of women who haven't given birth to children because they aren't maybe as distracted by raising their children as other women. They've actually got time to look them in the eye and get it done in politics in a way that a new mother in particular might not, or father might not be able to. I don't know. I just don't know. I think it's a sign of a total lack of imagination. If you look at the life of a person and they haven't had children, male or female, I mean, it's especially focused on women, I think. But I was talking last week to a man who called in from South Wales who'd had this experience. He never wanted children and people wield it against him, including his wife, who thought she could change his mind. And when she found out she couldn't, they ended up getting divorced. But the lack of imagination in that is what bothers me the most, more than how insulting it is to people. Just the lack of imagination. That in any field, whether it's in medicine, working in a supermarket, whatever job you do, electrician, lawyer, journalist, politician, whatever it is, that you somehow do it less well. You're to be suspected of something if you haven't had children. Because that's what he was essentially saying. I'm suspicious of this lot because they've got no stake in the future because they've got no kids. It's almost like childless people who have some kind of convention where they rub their hands together and go, ha, 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 we hate families. I can confirm we don't do that. And we're not covered in scales, to quote Bridget Jones. But he speaks as though they are covered in scales and cats and found dead on the floor, age 90, covered in cats. It's ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous.